But when you start looking through this Mariners season and thinking about the things that went right versus the things that went wrong, I don't know. Here's my exercise last night. I went through it, Brock, and maybe you'll come up with some of the same conclusions I did. You want a few things that went right for the Mariners?
Yeah, and by the way, Maura and Justin nailed it too.
Yeah.
I mean, you posed this question to the show group last night, the show unit, and I thought those two just also equally hammered in some great points.
So let's run through them between us, right? So here's a few of the things they got right. Julio. Julio went right, times 1,000.
You sure about
right?
that?
And then the other, I also want to kind of add to this how much of what went right and wrong is sustainable or should continue. Julio, not only did they get right and was he, is better than expected times 100, that should continue to improve, not just sustain, but he should continue to get better as he gets older, learns the league, and gets physically even
just
stronger.
stay out of the weight room this offseason. I don't need any more size on you, Julio. Just stay limber.
The young pitchers, right, obviously were a huge thing that went well for them this year. Health's always going to be a concern there for me. I mean, I'll keep reiterating the stat. The Mariners didn't lose a single starting pitcher to injury this year. So
that doesn't happen. That's
rare.
That's an anomaly.
That is an anomaly.
Well, especially to a team that weren't they breaking records in recent years for how many pitchers they went
That's
through?
right. And so that'll happen again. I mean, some of it is they had youth on their side, which helps, but there will be injuries. I mean, that's just the nature of that position. Read Jeff Passan's book, The Arm, and you'll see that. We'll talk to Jeff tomorrow. Another thing that went right, and it's funny because some of it started off wrong, is they still have that special sauce in the pen. Jerry seems to have kind of a magic special sauce, some new names, but the same result. And I think some of that has to do with the way they are teaching bullpen, so to speak. They are teaching relievers how to perform in those situations and helping them with their pitch selection and their strategy, et cetera. They seem to be really good at that.
Yep.
Suarez, obviously, went way right. Sustainable, I think, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he was always a power guy in Cincinnati, and he thought, well, maybe it's just the ballpark and the National League and everything else. And even he, I think, said afterwards, like, I didn't know how this was going to go. I'm going to a foreign land. But, yeah, he embraced it. He loved it. I think the ballpark fits him and his swing. And, yeah, I don't see why he can't hit 30 home runs a season like he's done in the past, and he did this season.
Absolutely. Now, ultimately, I'd like him not to hit third. Right? I mean, I'd like them to develop a lineup where you don't need a Eugenio Suarez with his strikeouts, et cetera, hitting at that point in the lineup. I'd like him to be your number 5 or 6 hitter. Mm-hmm. But, okay, I don't see him doing what he did again to be particularly challenging. Cal Raleigh, obviously something that went right. I could argue, Justin, I know you're a huge Cal Raleigh guy.
Yeah.
His development might be the biggest reason they made the playoffs this year. I was thinking about it. The most surprising thing that happened. Obviously, Julio was remarkable. The pitching was great, and they couldn't have done it without any of those things, too.
Sure.
But his came out of nowhere. And that of all of the things that went right this year, might be the biggest.
Not only came out of nowhere, but came out from underneath nowhere. He got
right.
Remember, Jerry threw him the life preserver in AAA. Like, I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
That's how good that he finished out.
Is he from Libby? Where's he from? Montana Kid, Great Falls?
He should be.
He should be, yeah.
He absolutely
he
should
deal
be.
With that cold wind.
He should be hanging out with Will Disley.
I'm sure he wears ropers.
The league will adjust to him.
Yeah,
a little bit,
sure.
and he'll have an interesting sophomore season next year. Now that the league respects him a little bit and will know how to pitch him, but we'll see where that goes. Their depth, I know it was challenged, and people said that their depth was bad. I think their depth was tremendous. It was tested all year long, and they found a way to survive it. All of the injuries they had, specifically in the outfield, and they kept on ticking because of Haniger and Moore. And while people got mad about that, those guys were depth.
You mean Haggerty or Moore?
I'm sorry, that's what I said. What did I say?
Haniger.
No, I meant Haggerty. That's what I meant.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Castillo's going to be on the list as well.
Yeah, well.
Right? Rebuilt team. Yeah. You need to have that dude.
Which one? Which
Luis.
Oh, okay. Right.
You got to have that dude. Yes. You got to have that starter. You got to have that guy at the top of your rotation.
And
He's
is that dude.
So, yeah. Anything I'm missing in terms of things that went right this year for them?
How about one of the biggest things you called for in the middle of the season was a veteran presence there. And
Carlos Santana.
But we also heard from Justin Upton, who was here for 12 seconds.
Good point.
Who said something about, you guys are so much fun off the field. Why aren't you putting it on fun out here?
It's a really good point. Yes, that's good. Some of those veterans that they brought in, Justin Upton obviously didn't work out as a hitter.
And on the field performer, right.
But Carlos Santana did.
He sure did.
And
Won you
again,
a few games.
I don't know that I want to see Carlos Santana batting fifth next year for this team, but what he did for them this year can't be denied. Helped them win multiple games. His home run that he hit in Toronto was enormously important.
Yep. And the 2 against Toronto at home.
My answer here may play a little more into tomorrow and some of the conversation we have to discuss with different moments in time in particular. But what went right? The fight. The fight went right. And maybe that was, where Jesse hurt his neck. Maybe he just sacrificed the whole thing for the team.
We'll talk about him in a minute.
Yeah, maybe just taking on, 20 guys, just totally dislodged a disc in his neck and was never the same afterwards.
You mean the actual brawl. I thought you meant just like the fight of the team.
Oh, no, I mean
the fight.
The brawl, man.
The fight.
I mean the actual
brawl. Did you notice the TBS guys dropping that, a lot of the Mariners guys said that was a big reason how things kind of came together for them. Of course it is.
You clamored for 13 years for a fight.
Yes.
You had wanted one. You've been itching so badly. Not for the actual fisticuffs, but just what it meant.
Yes.
That you actually cared enough that you're going to fight for each other. You're going to fight for your family, right? As some say at LSU. You're going to fight for your crew. And they fought. So actually, it took you a second.
Good one.
Yeah, that's your Brian Kelly. Yeah. So that to
your
me
accent was about as natural as his.
Yeah, family. That's what worked. That fight actually worked.
So that's a lot. I mean, those are a lot of things that went right. It's amazing though that they balance off some of the things that went wrong when you think about how large a bet they made on a few of these things. And this list has to start with Jesse Winker. What a mess! What a mess! They are in I don't know what they're going to end up doing here. There's no easy solution. They traded some legit talent to bring him in, right? In terms of Brandon Williamson, a young lefty that they had a lot of faith in. Quite frankly, they gave up Jake Fraley in the deal. Fraley had a 10 times better year than he did. It's unbelievable. Now, thank God they got Suarez back, which was supposed to be the throw-in. But Jesse Winker, they've already signed him for next year. He had a god-awful season at the plate. His defense was worse than any of us imagined. And for whatever reason, he wasn't with the team during the postseason.
Right.
Wasn't even introduced with the team when they played their home game, when guys like, Sadler and Tom Murphy, et cetera, were there. That's not a good sign.
No.
That's a bad sign.
No.
And they were counting on that bat, man. Guy who had a 950 OPS, and instead he does bubkas. Mitch Haniger, unfortunately with the injuries and then whatever happened to him down the stretch, this will be a bigger conversation, Brock.
Sure will.
But Mitch didn't exactly give you a reason to re-sign him.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't give you a reason. So we'll talk more about Mitch, but that was a huge problem. They didn't get anything from what he had, 7 home runs on the year or something like that. They didn't get what they needed from Mitch Haniger.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to say this one with some trepidation because I don't want to put him on this list, especially given the first half of the season. But I think I have to put Ty France here. You want to know the biggest underperformer in the postseason for me was Ty France. Biggest disappointment of the postseason. I'm going to continue to assume that his wrist was hurt. Not injured, but hurt.
Just not right.
And that when he gets the offseason to really let that thing rest, he'll come back next year, and we'll see the player we watched for the first year and a half plus that he was here. Because what we saw at the end of this season was not the Ty France that I've watched. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to continue to believe that he's hurt. He can continue to say he's not. That's fine.
Because remember, he was an all-star. I mean, he was a late ad, but he was a deserving all-star with his production in the first half of the season.
But what he did in the second half? Nothing. I mean, he was a non-factor for them for the most part in the second half of the year outside of a couple games, and that includes the postseason.
Played a good first base, thankfully. I mean, it never
Very
really
good.
The offense never really filtered.
But you're not paying him to play first base. If you
know.
want somebody to come play first base, there's plenty of people who can do that.
Yep.
You need Ty France to hit. And unfortunately, he wasn't really able to do that down the stretch. And Jared Kelnick is going to go onto this list as well. I know he's young, and I'm his biggest fan, and I still believe there's something in there. This was not a year that convinces me he's nothing, but obviously it's a question mark in terms of what you can promise him next year because you're in full go mode.